95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Corcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let it go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 the lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the Velocity Racing League 2023 Cup Series. We are here today at the Milwaukee Mile for the Milwaukee 200. My name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today. 1080p, 60 frames a second. Going to be a one-man show here tonight. Unfortunately, Gareth McAllister not able to be here tonight, and I'm not sure if James East is going to make a special guest appearance at some point during the broadcast here, but we might potentially see that at some point. Either way, either how, we are going to go ahead and get started with the show. Qualifying currently underway as drivers start to get out there and put down their best times for today's qualifying. Nicholas Corcel, Matthew Fitz, Michael Keithley, Scott Shire, Howie Briss, Logan Jones, Aaron Smith, going to be some of the first few drivers out on track here, utilizing all the time that they have here, the 5 minutes that they have for qualifying to get the best time that they possibly can here. A 30.15, going to be the first time on the board here from Nicholas Corcel in the number 45 machine. Howie Briss coming in second, just a few hundredths of a second, behind that. And we can take a look at those best times here on the left-hand side of your screens. A 30.22 from the 97 machine. Mostly as drivers are getting out on track and getting those tires warmed up the first lap around. Second lap usually going to be where they start to turn up the heat just a little bit. Aaron Smith coming across the line the first time with a 29.93. Howie Briss responds with a 29.75 as the best time for himself the second lap around. So Howie Briss doing a phenomenal job to put himself up at the top of the starting line. Up on the pole position, Logan Jones in the number 3, going to be 5th place here at the moment, doing all that he can with a 30.46 as his best time. 4/10 roughly separating himself from the top 3. And taking a look at some of the previous, well, if we go back to last week's race at Myrtle Beach, where we saw Howie Briss come away with the win, Benjamin Lacey in second, Charles Jurek taking away that 3rd place position, rounding out the podium for last week. And also taking into consideration how close the Drivers' Championship has started to develop here, or at least the point standings have started to form up here between both Jaden Hopp and Howie Briss. Jaden Hopp leading the Drivers' Championship with 1,720 points, and Howie Briss just 83 points behind that, 1,637 points. Nicholas Corcel in that 3rd place position, 164 points behind Jaden Hopp. Only 81 points behind Howie Briss, so essentially you could consider the top 3 and almost actually the top 5. Even James Miller in 6th place. There's quite a few different battles happening still at this point in the season here, as we've only got just a few minutes, just under a minute left to go here before qualifying sees the checkered flag fly, and we bring things too close here for qualifying, and we get into the starting. Oh boy, Thomas Sewell getting a little bit too much momentum there going into turn. I believe that was turn 1. If I'm looking at the right direction of the track here. As only a few drivers remaining out on track, and it looks like Tony Hilbrand's going to make a late appearance here in qualifying in the number 92 machine, and hopefully going to be able to put down a solid time here before we see the checkered flag fly, and drivers are, well, required to make it back down to pit road and get themselves lined up for the parade lap here today. We're going to see here live what Tony Hilbrands is going to do as Benjamin Lacey puts himself on the board, 9th place with a 30.57. Tony Hilbrands now working his way out of turn number 4, coming on the straight, across the checkered line, and let's see where Tony Hilbrands is going to put himself here, as he's going to get a 29.96 all the way up into 4th. Top 5 starting position here for Tony. He's got one more. No, I don't think. Yep, there it is. Checkered flag is going to wave before he gets another opportunity to wrap, to go up even further in the starting lineup, but I think he's going to be ultimately satisfied with that start. So let's go through our starting lineup here today as it stands. Howie Briss, Aaron Smith going to be up in the front row. Jaden Hopp, Tony Hilbrand's going to take the second row. Nicholas Corcel, Scott Shire going to be in the 3rd row. Thomas Sewell, Logan Jones going to be in the 4th row. Matthew Fitz and Benjamin Lacey going to take up the 5th row. Michael Keithley, James Coulibaly going to take up our 6th row here today. Moving up and down the grid here, a little bit smaller of a field than what we're used to. Howie D-Trey going to be in 15th, rounding out the pack here today. So, yeah, unfortunate to only have a few drivers here today. Well, a few less drivers than what we're normally used to here with VRL, but that's a-okay. We've got 15 drivers out here on track today, and I think it's going to be some fantastic racing here at Milwaukee, and hopefully we'll get to see some great action throughout tonight's race. 200 laps that we will see, 200 laps, 200 miles. That is one great thing about this track, that is being a mile makes it very, very easy to figure out how many miles you're going to be going around track. Or how many laps, I should say, you're going to be going around track here. But with just under, let's see here, just a few seconds remaining before we see the iRacing pace truck make its way for the first time for a pace lap around the track. It will be before Tony Hilbrand's looks like having some troubles here. Right as we were about to go on board with him, he managed to get it going there, but yeah, that's going to bring out the yellow flag here. The caution's going to come out to restack the field, get everyone back into their proper lineup here. But yeah, Tony Hilbrand's having some troubles off the starting line, or at least just getting into the pace lap. Good thing it was during the pace lap and not during the race itself. That is the last thing you want to have happen. But granted, you're not going to be making a standing start in these cars to begin with, so I think that would have been avoided either way. But Tony Hilbrand's definitely probably didn't expect that to have happened here today for the start of today's race. As we come across the line, I do believe that the lights will come off on the pace truck. It might not, though, because of the yellow flag. It certainly does, so perfect. Race Control doing a phenomenal job. Red is the name that he has gone by in the Discord that we are all in. So I thank Mr. Red for all the work that he does behind the scenes and ensuring that these races go smoothly. So a big shout out to Red, a guy that really goes uncredited in most of these races and a lot of these races, and ensuring that things go smoothly. So big shout out to Red. Thank you for what you do, and continue to do what you do, because it makes things go very, very smoothly here with VRL, and I think that's what a lot of these drivers enjoy here, as it looks like my voice might have been drowned out here a little bit for some of you at home. We're going to go ahead and try and fix that here. Pace truck is in, and the green flag drops from the flag stand, and away we go. A little bit of a slip up there, looked like, from Howie Briss. Tony Hilbrand's able to move up into the second place position. Now going to be stacked up behind Aaron Smith as they come out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Green flag racing and already side by side for a majority of the field here. Or I should say at least for a few drivers here in the midfield as we come out of turn 4. We're watching with Scott Shire. Matthew Fitz going to be right on his tail. Coming across the line brings us lap number 2. Aaron Smith, Tony Hilbrand, Howie Briss in your top 3 at the moment. And so far, so smooth for these drivers and for these for this race so far as they get themselves lined up single file and get ready for a long 200 laps here at Milwaukee. Essentially got to get your head down and get yourself in the groove of things. Don't want to make any mistakes early on. This is going to be an absolutely critical part of today's race where Milwaukee will take a ride on board here with Michael Keithley, or excuse me, Benjamin Lacey, who's making some moves here at the moment. Will ride on with the passenger camera here of the number 7 machine, and we'll take a lap on board and kind of show you what I mean here when I say that Milwaukee being a flat oval. This is a tough track to be at, and folks, if you haven't been a part of the iRacing service or have taken yourself onto, you know, your spouses or your whomever is close to you that has a sim rig and given one of these a try, it is definitely a rough experience for newcomers, especially like myself when I was first trying to dip my toes into oval racing and actually get a feel for things myself instead of just always talking about it. So now that I've gotten a chance to understand it a little bit more, even in just while it's just the sim racing world, it still has given me some insight that I previously did not have before. So let me tell you, it is a game changer. But Benjamin Lacey giving us a ride on board and just kind of showing us what it's like out here on track as we've got some battles happening towards the front of the field. And meanwhile, I was blabbering away. Tony Hilbrand managed to take the lead and is now starting to build up some distance between himself and the rest of the field. Howie Briss, Aaron Smith going to be in that second and third place position. Aaron dropping down one spot from where he was in that second place starting spot. Howie Briss also dropping down from where he was in the lead, but Tony Hilbrand's obviously on a mission here today early on and is looking to increase that lead and try and keep things going here as we are currently watching along with a few different drivers here in the midfield, just seeing how some of these smaller battles are starting to develop. We're looking at now at Thomas Sewell and Scott Shire as they come across the checkered line, heading off into turns 1 and 2. Things looking calm, things looking steady for these drivers and for this field. So while that's happening and while things are, like I said before, drivers are just going to get their heads down and try and just stay focused, we're just going to be patient here. We're going to take a look at some of the various battles happening throughout the field, but we're also going to try and speculate here what could potentially be some of the strategies here today, as I don't have any notes to go off of here. So we're going to do our best. Oh, perfect. I answered Don's question without even realizing, but yes, this track is going to be another one of those flat tracks that definitely test drivers, and it's going to be, oh man, given that it is a mile, they have a bit more time to breathe in between turns. So coming down the straightaways, you know, they can kind of take a little bit of a mental break, if you will, given, you know, they're still going to have drivers around them fighting for position, but that gives them enough time to kind of prepare for the next turn. As again, it's going to be a mentally demanding race for these drivers. They have to execute these turns to near perfection every single lap. It's going to be a very, very tough race to do that and especially as your tires start to degrade and the track temperatures, you know, they're going to come up here, and once track temperatures start to rise, tire temperatures also rise as well. It just creates a very interesting dynamic on the track. As we're seeing Michael Keithley here, the number 53 machine. I think I had a little bit of a wobble there for a second, but we've got another question here in chat from Dawn asking, when is the next Crown Jewel race? Dawn, that is actually a very, very good question. Let me take a look here. The Heartland 400 is the next Crown Jewel race, May 29th at Iowa Speedway. It is going to be a 400 lap race. And that is going to be another wild full-length race that we will have here for VRL. So I'm very excited to see that, and hopefully we will get to see more of that in the future. As Aaron Smith, Jaden Hopp starting to close in on one another. Jaden Hopp, your current Drivers' Championship leader at the moment. Jaden with an incredible win streak here with VRL, and when I say win streak, he's obviously had a couple different races here where he hasn't won. The most recent one being last week at Myrtle Beach Speedway, but Jaden has won Richmond. He's also won Charlotte, the previous Crown Jewel race. He's won North Wilkesboro, Atlanta Motor Speedway, USA International, and I think that's it for the time being, but an already impressive start to Jaden Hopp's season, as we're currently on race number 15, and I think, actually, excuse me, that is incorrect. We are currently on race 11. So, race number 11 of the season, and I gotta tell you, it has been very, very impressive to watch Jaden Hopp throughout every single race that he's been in so far, and just watching the improvement, really, from what we saw. Aaron Smith getting... Did he just get out of the way? I don't think that was a tap. I think... Hold on a second. We're gonna check this out here real quick, because I don't think that was a tap. At least I hope not. Definitely not. Was that a... Trying to see if he wobbled a little bit here. No, he just got out of the way. Interesting. Okay, that's... I frankly was not expecting that here from Aaron Smith. I mean, Aaron has done very well in both this season and last season as well, being, again, we made a lot of jokes last season that Aaron Smith was winning just a lot of races and just being an extremely dominant driver in every single race. But Aaron today, I mean, I'm not sure if there's maybe a little bit of troubles going on behind the wheel of the number 70 machine, maybe some mechanical issues, maybe just... I'm not sure. Maybe we'll have to see if we can find out some more information, but we'll continue on with the racing here. Lap 17 of 200 here in Milwaukee. Tony Hillebrand's still your race leader, with Howie Briss in second, Jaden Hopp in that third place spot here at the moment. So again, as I mentioned, a lot of these drivers are going to be in that head-down focus mode where, you know, it's going to be very costly if you make any mistakes here, because it's not going to be forgiving in any sort of way. And I mean, in oval racing, when you make mistakes, it's usually not very forgiving in most cases, you know. If you get a little bit loose, you can kind of try and pull it back together in most cases, and you can usually do something with it. But, you know, in iRacing, not just in oval racing, but in the road racing, all over the whole simulator itself, you will find instances where, you know, contact is made where contact really shouldn't be made, but that is just the woes of net code and so on and so forth. But these drivers and I think everyone in a part of the iRacing service does the best that they can to try and mitigate those things. But here today, I mean, given the number of drivers that we have on field, you know, normally you would be worried about that with 30-plus drivers or something of that nature. There's quite a bit of room here at Milwaukee, but still, even still, there's still a lot of chances for drivers to make any kind of mistakes here. And so far, everyone's been very clean, very consistent, and really, again, just trying to keep themselves from making any critical errors and losing their cars entirely and having to end their race early. So it looks to be at the moment Thomas Sewell, Scott Shire going to have a little bit of a battle happening here for the 6th place position. Let's see if we can ride on board here with Scott and just get a bird's eye view of what's happening, or not necessarily a bird's eye view, but a onboard view here with the number 4 driver, just what this battle is looking like here between these two drivers. As right now, I think everyone is kind of being a little bit more cautious during this stage of the race. Not trying to overdo things, not trying to push too aggressively, but I think Scott here he's got the feeling that he has the better pace here in this number 4 machine, as he's going to make the pass heading into turns 3 and 4 on the inside. Thomas Sewell being stuck in the middle to outside. Not going to have many other options but to let him on by and fall back behind the number 4 machine and let him take that 6th place spot here. But Thomas Sewell could also make the same response here, as Logan Jones, Matthew Fitz going to close in on these two drivers here as well. Potentially going to be putting on some battles between these 4 drivers potentially, as we work our way back through turns 3 and 4. And back across the checkered line, bringing us lap 25 of 200. Tony Hillebrands, your race leader, still currently still putting on an impressive gap here, as looks like Matthew Fitz going to make the move on Thomas Sewell, and Logan Jones also going to try and follow suit here through turns 1 and 2. Onto the back straightaway, going to carry the momentum, and Thomas Sewell going to try and do everything in his power to, I mean, doesn't look like he's putting up too much defense here, but really just trying to, again, keep himself in the race and not put himself in any sort of unnecessary danger, if you will. Logan Jones, Matthew Fitz, however, they are feeling good now that the tire wear is probably at the point now where it's starting to feel pretty good. The cars are probably starting to grip a lot better, and you're probably able to turn a little bit better. I mean, lap times are not going to be qualifying pace, if you will, but the overall feel of the car will start to improve here at this point, I would have to guess. Again, I'm not entirely certain what the fuel tire strategy is going to look like here for a lot of these drivers. I'm going to have to guess it's going to be around, I would say, 80 to 90 laps is when we'll see that first pit stop. Give or take about 10 laps or so, but I think that's about the window that we should expect to see here, as a battle for 2nd place starting to develop here between Jaden Hopp and Howie Briss. Let's take a ride on board here from the helmet camera of Jaden Hopp as the battle for 2nd place. Howie Briss down the front straightaway, the 97 machine trying to do all that he can to keep himself up ahead of Jaden Hopp again. Jaden doing everything in his power to secure some more points to keep himself in that lead for the Drivers' Championship. If you will recall, or for those of you that may have missed it when I mentioned it earlier, Jaden Hopp with the lead for the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Howie Briss just 83 points behind him. So if Howie Briss can finish ahead of Jaden Hopp here tonight, that will hopefully bring that gap down a little bit more and potentially bring that fight even closer between these two drivers. And folks, I would just absolutely love to see a fight between these two drivers, as I am seeing. Aha! So, I was not checking. Yes. All right, folks. Well, I have some very good news for those of you watching, and for those of you who are just now tuning in. I have a very, very special guest that I would like to announce. A good friend, a good colleague of mine, James East, up here in the booth. James, welcome to the show. A little bit of a late start here for yourself here, but I mean, you know what? I don't think you could have came in at a better time here. As I mean, it's so far smooth racing, and we've got a great battle happening here for second place. As James, I mean, yeah. Anyway, things are looking good out here on track at Milwaukee.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mason, as well as all the Velocity Racing League family. Yeah, I've actually snuck in the booth around lap 20 or so, but good to be officially introduced as we're watching Jaden Hopp and Howie Briss. I mean, Nicholas Caressel also in the mix there in that fourth place number 45 machine. And interesting point of note as well, Aaron Smith, the number 70, the odds-on favorite. And as you said, last season kind of swept the podium each and every week, has put it back behind the wall on lap 16, so he is done and out of this thing. So that's going to definitely shake things up a little bit at the front. And at the front, Tony Hilbrand's kind of checking out the 92. He's got a 1.4 second gap over Hopp and Briss. So I think right now Hilbrand's in a good position. Just kind of keep his nose forward, click off laps, and see what he can do here.
Yeah, it is. It has been a Tony Hilbrand's night here, and for those of you, again, for those of you tuning in now or who have tuned in just recently, Tony Hilbrand's did not start in that first place spot, starting off in fourth place and having a very, very good start going into turn one, able to pull up right next to Howie Briss and practically take the lead about a couple turns later. It was very impressive to see from Tony Hilbrand's in. So far, 34 laps into the race here, it has been all the 92 machine, and no one has really had any time to respond to it, as, again, Jaden Hopp, Howie Briss, they've been duking it out here for a little bit now. Jaden Hopp has now successfully made that move up into second place, and so far seems to be building up some distance between himself and Howie Briss. But again, folks, as we'll recall, I predicted that pit stops could be around 80 to 90 laps. I could be a little bit wrong about that. I mean, flat tracks are pretty well known for just absolutely decimating tires, and I could be off on that number by a good margin, but we'll just have to wait and see, as it looks like Michael Ashmore and Howie Dietrich are both going to be down in the booth here today. So I don't know exactly if that's a indicator that it's time to come down into the pits, or if it's just these drivers are not particularly too satisfied with their car at the moment. As it was mentioned in the YouTube chat that we have 5 sets of tires for today's race. So, I mean, theoretically, you could have a 5-stop race if you wanted to, but you're not exactly going to be competing for any top positions if you take that approach, if you will, to tonight's race.
Now, Mason, we did get a little bit of a insight from race control being served by Red here today in Milwaukee. He's saying about 70-ish laps on fuel, but with this, as you kind of touched on it earlier in the broadcast, this very flat track here in Milwaukee, very, very tough on tires. So I'm going to be interested to see, are we going to have drivers come down pit road due to needing fuel? Or are we going to maybe see some tire pit stops, as guys such as Hopp, Briss, and Caressel, they've been really leaning on each other, and that may be kind of prematurely wearing these tires out, as opposed to somebody like Hilbrand's up in front and just kind of clicking off laps and kind of focusing on saving that front right, not leaning on it too much. And speaking of Hilbrand's, big thumbs up to Don Hilbrand's, as well as Lindsay MW we see those folks out here each and every week supporting the Velocity Racing League, supporting their favorite drivers. So I've got to say, out of all the leagues we cover, I think this one may have some of the most consistent fans we broadcasted for, and really cool seeing those same folks up in the virtual grandstands each and every week.
Oh, James, you know, me and Gareth mention it all the time. We talk about it all the time. Having a consistent crowd is something that we always love to see, and seeing the same faces week in and week out showing their support, it's something that we couldn't ask for, and we couldn't ask for anything better, is what I'm trying to get at here. It's been absolutely incredible, the amount of support that we've gotten from not only Dawn and Lindsay, as well as Thomas Sewell. There's plenty of other names that I'm sure that I'm not getting at now, that sometimes aren't too active in the chat, but sometimes we will see them from time to time. But to each and every single one of you who has supported not only Team Goon Squad, but the Velocity Racing League in its entirety since we have started working with them nearly, well, at this point, a year and a half ago. It's thank you all for your support. It has been absolutely tremendous, and we wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for you all. So thank you all for what you all do, and for making Monday nights a little bit more exciting for those of us who like to enjoy some racing on a Monday night here. As you know, personally, James, I mean, I don't know about you, but there's nothing usually better on TV, so I mean, why not watch some racing?
Yeah, I agree. One of the cleanest ARCA races you can find this series. The fans show up each and every week. They're smashing the like button. They're subscribing and supporting the channel, as well as the racers. I see a few of those folks in the chat who have picked up some Velocity Racing League merch, supporting the league as well. So, again, for me as a broadcaster, even when I'm not, I mean, I'm very rarely in the booth for VRL, but I tune in most Monday nights to watch you and Mason run a great show, and it's always the same folks coming out and supporting the drivers. And yeah, definitely being able to, as Don says, converse with the fans, and kind of vice versa. They're asking questions of us, helping keeping the show lively and a little bit interesting, and allows us to provide maybe a little bit of insight that the average sim racing fan doesn't quite know. I mean, they might not know about wearing out the front right tire. They might not know that Coruscant on the 45 machines, he's really leaning on the back right tire, kind of flat tracking that 45 around here at Milwaukee. So definitely improves the show for everybody out tuning in, and Carl Fitz joined us as well. And again, just a great race, a great family here at VRL. And I mean, even across the track right now, we're seeing drivers such as Sewell and how do I say that, Mason, the number 22 machine?
I believe it's Koulibaly. I think he's corrected us before, but me and Gareth are both terrible at remembering pronunciations.
All right, well, I'm going to say Koulibaly, and if I'm mistaken, please forward all complaints to our HR department headed by Mason Heimball. As right now, Koulibaly in a little bit of a moment here, as here comes Thomas Sewell in the 77, trying to gain back one of those positions in the battle for ninth. Less than 2/10 separating those drivers. Sewell looking to the inside line, but I think Koulibaly carrying a little bit more speed, a little bit more corner momentum. And that, I believe that's the Miller Lightback, number 22. So going to be interesting to see what the tire management game is going to be, especially if we still have about 25 more laps before some green flag pit stops. It's going to be tough for these drivers. We've had quite a few already put it back in the virtual hauler. I believe Michael Ashmore, Michael Keithley, Howie DeTrey, Aaron Smith, James Miller, all early retirements here tonight. So going to be interesting to see what the tire management's going to do and who's going to be the last driver standing here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it has been. I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. Milwaukee being one of the flat tracks in the series, it is really going to test a lot of drivers' abilities here today, and every single lap is going to be a challenge for every driver here today. I mean, some drivers might be a little bit more comfortable than others, and to them, I mean, props to you. You know, these tracks, whenever I try and race on them, it's always a little tricky. I end up bumping into the wall a few more times than I would probably like to, but again, that's why I'm up here in the booth and not in the car. So anyway, with that being said, James Koulibaly, Thomas Sewell still continuing this a little bit of a bout that they have here. And Sewell trying, I think, to oh boy, as Koulibaly taps the wall a little bit, coming down the back straightaway. As I was mentioning, Sewell trying to recover a little bit from the deficit, the position deficit that he currently is suffering, as he saw Matthew Fitz, Logan Jones, and I believe James Koulibaly as well make that pass around him a few laps ago, and I think is now trying to maybe step things up just a little bit. But again, James, as you mentioned, and as we've kind of touched on already, Pit stops are going to be coming up here very soon. Around, at this point, I'd have to say within 20 laps, 25, maybe 30, depending on how brave some drivers are feeling here. I know that Tony Hilbrands, he might not be as inclined to come down as early as some other drivers here. He might want to try and stick things out a little bit later than usual. Michael Ashmore coming down here for his second time tonight. I do have some bit of intel as well from the race, from the drivers chat. I think Michael Ashmore and James Miller both mentioned that they might possibly be drivers tonight, and that didn't make any sense. But James Miller already down in the pits. He's already put his car in the trailer, and I think Michael Ashmore might be looking to do the same here. Howie Dietrich, he's been down in the pits for almost 15 minutes now, so I think we've already seen some retirements from the race here today, James, but I think for the drivers that are still out here on track, they're looking to finish out the 150 laps that we still have here. And I mean, if all goes well, if all stays green here, it's going to be pretty much a strategy race here tonight, or pretty much a game of just survive. That's pretty much the only thing that these drivers are going to have to worry about. Not necessarily the battles themselves, but just staying out here and keeping that car in one piece as Nicholas Corsell makes his way down its pit road.
Yeah, going to be interesting. I haven't heard much driver chatter because I am tuned in on the driver radio. Haven't really heard much from the guys calling out pit stops or something like that. So most drivers in Discord able to communicate that way. But Corsell's in pit road. Ashmore's been in pit road for a hot minute. And it looks like the battle for third, Benjamin Lacey, Howie Briss. I mean, Lacey up 7 positions so far tonight. So feeling really good in the late run. But here comes Jaden Hopp, the number 81 machine, also signaling a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, things are starting to look like it might be earlier pit runs or pit stops for some drivers here than what we were expecting. And I think, James, I mean, you and I both mentioned it, that it was pretty much expected given the nature of these flat tracks. You know, we both know, and I think anyone who has had time to rip these cars around flat tracks or done it in real life or sim racing, whatever the case might be, you will know that these tracks just eat tires. It just, you know, it's like they do it for breakfast. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they just eat rubber. And Howie Briss is going to also make that entry down into pit road here, lap 53 of 200. So that's going to be the big question here, I think, up here in the booth at least, or at least for myself, is when our leaders are going to come in. When is Tony Hilbrands going to make that entry into pit road himself? And it might be, nope, he's not. He's going to take it another, and again, like I mentioned earlier, I think he's going to be one of the drivers to stay out here a little bit later, as Jaden Hopp, he's already made his entry down into pit road, lap 51, and you can see the pace already from that 81 machine on a fresh set of tires. I don't know, James. What would you do in this situation if you were Tony right now?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm going to keep an eye on the lap times there and compare Tony, what he's doing at 31.81 his last time by. Looks like Corsell out of pit road with sticker tires, clicks off a 30.8 after a lap 50 pit stop. But here comes Hilbrands, kind of answering that questions for us as he comes down pit road in that 92 machine. So I guess now is the answer, because, man, trying to see, I don't think how much time Hilbrands would have lost if he opted to stay out. Now Benjamin Lacey, the number 7, he's going to stay out. And we also got a report as well, Michael Keithley, that number 53, broke the front right of the car, and he's going to be out for the remainder of the evening. So hate to see that for Keithley, always a fan favorite out here. And I guess now, Mason, the question is, what are we going to see from Lacey, Schuer, and Jones, the only 3 drivers who have yet to come down pit road? How much time are they going to gain staying out as long as possible versus coming down and grabbing some fresh tires underneath them?
Yeah, as Shire is going to come down into the pits here, the number 4 machine, he's going to come in. I think he's taking the cues from other drivers here, and probably even from the car itself. I almost want to ride on board here with Logan Jones for just a moment and just kind of get an idea of what it is exactly like here at this moment with, at this point, 55 lap old or 57 lap old tires. Logan Jones seems to be comfortable. It doesn't seem like he's ripping the wheel around too much here, but you can tell he is being cautious. He is trying to keep that thing as steady as he can. As he comes through 1 and 2 here, he's definitely pulling that wheel to the left a little bit more than you'd probably want to. The key for oval racing, for those of you that don't know, it's to turn the wheel as little as possible. You don't want to be cranking on that thing to try and get the car to turn. The more you're turning it, the more you're wearing down those tires, and it's going to have a huge impact on the drivability of that car. And Logan Jones, it definitely is apparent, at least to myself and probably to you as well, James, that it's not an easy car to drive right now at this point. 58 laps in, and he's still clicking laps here on those tires.
Yeah, the cars, I mean, even with great tires underneath, aren't known for being easy to drive, and combine that with a very flat track such as Milwaukee, you're really fighting this thing all the way around. It starts off very, very loose, gets tight throughout the middle of the run, and I need to get the drivers, maybe Michael Keithley, who's in the spectator, can kind of correct me, but I want to say late into the run, they get a little bit loose as well. With the lack of fuel, the car lightens up, and the tires can get a little bit hot, a little bit greasy, and at 3/4 to the end of the run, and again, it goes right back to being a handful to hold on to, and especially at Milwaukee, have to be very easy on the throttles. It looks like Lacey, I almost thought he was setting up for a pit stop there, but stays out for another one. Looking to see what the lap time updates to a 31.87. Meanwhile, Jayden Hopp now in second place is Logan Jones down pit road, a 30.51, 1.3 seconds faster than your race leader. Gotta wonder, maybe Lacey has some sort of fuel strategy going on here, and maybe he's done some math to try and bring this thing home on mileage.
You know, and that would be a very interesting strategy. I mean, taking a very, very late pit stop here, but it's still kind of within the estimated window that we've got from our race control. So, you know, whether or not Benjamin is maybe trying to just push things as much as he can, trying to stay out as long as he can, I think you're right, James. There's got to be some kind of strategy behind this, because, you know, if you really try and break it down here, most of these drivers came in, let's just say an average about lap 55. We'll just average it right about there. It's not quite accurate, but we'll, for the sake of numbers, Benjamin Lacey's already stayed out 12 laps later, or well, not 12 laps, 7 laps later than the rest of these drivers here. If he can stay all the way until lap 70, theoretically, he should be able to potentially fight for this lead spot all the way until the end of the race. I mean, just on pit strategy alone, given that he's going to stay out later, the rest of these drivers they're going to come down.
Oh, there we go. Lacey's down pit road.
So here it is, lap 62. Okay, so it looks like he wasn't quite confident enough to take it all the way to 70, but I think James, you know, this late run that Benjamin's making here, I mean, we've seen it happen before in the past where drivers like this, you know, it kind of looks a little bleak there towards the beginning because, you know, they kind of start to fall down the pack a little bit, but then towards the end of the race, once everyone else is starting to having to come down pit road again, things start to heat up. And speaking of heating up, Nicholas Coruscant, Tony Hildebrand side by side as they make their way through 3 and 4. Hildebrand's down on the inside lane. He's going to have the advantage here as they come out of 4 onto the front straightaway. Hildebrand's up into second. Jayden Hopp leading the field with about 4 1/4 seconds, separating himself in second place here at this moment. So Jayden Hopp has got plenty of clean air to work with. It's just a matter of staying consistent here at this point in. Looking at pit strategy here right now, Tony's going to have to keep an eye out for Jayden at this point. I mean, Jayden has had an extremely consistent season, James. I know you've kind of tuned in here and there throughout the season, but I mean, Jayden has absolutely dominated so far, and I think tonight he's going to be looking to add even more points to his lead at this moment. Again, for those of you who weren't around a little bit earlier, 84 points separates Jayden Hopp and Howie Briss for the Drivers' Championship at the moment. So Jayden is going to be looking to score as many points as he can here today. And I think Howie Briss, earlier it seemed like he was looking to keep himself ahead of the 81 driver, but that has kind of dissipated here a little bit. And it looks like Howie's just going to keep himself consistent. consistent king here is what I would like to say here for Howie. I think is the best word to describe him as. But Jaden, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one to try and track down the 81 machine, James. But if Milwaukee is anything to go by, if flat tracks are anything to go by, it's, it doesn't favor anybody. And I think anything could possibly happen to not only Jaden, but to any of these drivers here, as we are almost halfway through this race. You could almost say, well, just over a quarter of the way through the race here today, but it's still early on, and there's still plenty of potential for things to get sour at any point in this race here. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I really like it. The top 4, top 5 drivers, a lot of those guys were in the top 3 fighting for the championship last season. I mean, Howie Briss, Tony Hilbrans, Jaden Hopp, 1, 2, 3 in the results. Nicholas Lovell finishing 4th. Sean Williams got 5th last season. I mean, that is very close to what you're seeing on the scoreboard right now. And as we kind of hinted at, it's consistency that wins these championships. And I would be shocked to not see somebody like Briss, somebody like Hilbrand, somebody like Hopp. But I mean, you've also got Coruscant, that 45 machine, starting to find himself in the mix a little bit more as we are on board with Briss in the 97 machine. He's trying to track down Coruscant on the 45. Briss only has 2-lap newer tires behind the 45. Going to be interesting as well to see maybe he's going to try and make that pass rather quickly, like we saw Hilbrand's do 4 or 5 laps prior. Kind of aggressively work his way through, then get into clean air, and then just kind of go into management mode and work on fuel mileage, work on tire conservation. As you see Briss taking a peek to the inside line against Coruscant. I think that's going to be through 3 and 4. Briss way down low. Coruscant a little bit higher line there, but you can see Coruscant really didn't get the power down like he was looking for, and Briss was able to wedge that car in through 4, and just like that, Briss going to work his way back inside the top 3, moving up in the podium, and very quickly put Coruscant about a quarter of a second back from that 97.
Yeah, and Coruscant here, I don't think I mentioned it, but he is 3rd in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. So Coruscant's also looking to score points here and keep himself in the mix of this battle, because if you'll recall, he's only 81 points behind Howie Briss. So, I mean, Coruscant's going to be looking to try and finish ahead of Howie Briss as much as he possibly can. And tonight is a good opportunity to potentially pull something like that off. And, I mean, Coruscant is looking quite good out there at the moment. I mean, we've seen the 45 machine stay relatively clean, relatively steady all race long. And right now, he's up 1 spot from where he started here. So he is certainly looking calm and steady and looking good at the moment. But will he be able to surpass Howie Briss and really put on a good fight here? That's kind of going to be the question here. I mean, Howie Briss being the reigning champion here with Velocity Racing League, we've heard it from different drivers in the past. Howie is, it's not exactly that he's a tough driver to battle with, it's that he's just very consistent. He's very good at what he does behind the wheel, and trying to get alongside him and trying to fight with him, it's tough sometimes. But if you're drivers like Jaden Hopp, or in this case Tony Hillbrands and Howie Briss, or we're talking about Howie Briss, you've got a little bit more to work with, and you can kind of squeeze that pace out. But Howie, I've mentioned it in the past in previous broadcasts, Howie's not always out there in the front, but you always will see him, whether it's that top 3, top 5, he's always going to be around there. And Nicholas Coruscant this season, I think, is also looking to do more of the same here, because we've seen Coruscant getting more of those top 5s, more of those top 3s. Looking at the stats here, Coruscant has currently 6 top 5s to his name, 1 win, no pole positions yet, in 8 top 10 positions. So he's had a good start to his season, and looking to, maybe potentially make a pole position here today. So James, lap 74 of 200. It's pretty well spread out for the majority of this field. We're seeing gap times of anywhere between 2 seconds to 5 seconds. It's kind of a little spread out here at this moment, but it's pretty much a game of just keep your head down and turn laps. There's not much else that drivers can do at this point other than just prepare for the next pit stop.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we had some of the spectators going, are we going to see a caution here? And for the most part, drivers seem to be very cautious when they're going to make those moves, as Corso just kind of seems content at this point, follow along with Briss in the 97, trying to stay in the same group, but I think Briss just pulling a little bit. I mean, a couple of tenths, not even a couple of tenths, a couple of hundreds here, a couple of hundreds there, and I mean, just kind of staying in line and seeing what's going to happen. I don't think that anybody's going to stay behind another driver on purpose for fuel mileage at this point, especially as race control made the comment it's more of a tire wear need to pit at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, it seems to me like this is going to be very much a tire management type of race in Milwaukee versus some of the play tracks we've seen where it's more of a fuel mileage run. So I think that's going to be the deciding factor. I'm still very interested to see what Benjamin Lacey's going to be able to do. The only driver to hit 62 laps on a set of tires. Everybody else coming in around lap 50 to 54. And I'm going to be interested to see if there's still a chance that number 7 can do something pretty miraculous on fuel mileage.
Yeah, you know, and kind of looking at it here, he's managed to keep himself in that 5th place position here at the moment. So, you know, he didn't suffer too much as far as position loss is concerned, and that was to be expected given that most of the drivers around him were a lap down already, and were having to go around him and so on and so forth. So the fact that he only dropped down 4 spots from where he was in the lead, I think is a great sign here for Benjamin Lacey. It's just a matter of keeping it together and keeping that pace going now until his next expected pit stop. Now, if we kind of consider what drivers have done already, the earliest pit stop that was made here that wasn't a driver retiring from the race. It looks to be lap 50 from Nicholas Corcel, the 45 driver. So I would expect him to come in about lap 100. And just for comparison's sake, for Benjamin Lacey, he's going to be able to stay out at least another 12 laps after that. So, I mean, I don't know, James. He could just be setting himself up so that way when it's time for the final pit stop of the race, he can stay out while everyone else has to come in and get fuel, get tires, so on and so forth. He might be fighting the car a little bit more towards the end here, but he should theoretically be able to hold whatever position he's currently in to the checkered line, and maybe it just might be the lead that we're talking about here. We'll just have to wait and find out. I mean, there's plenty of things that can still happen, and Benjamin Lacey and the rest of the field still have a long race to go, so we'll have to wait and see how this is going to play out and what kind of other strategies some other drivers might have here.
Yeah, I think it's been really intriguing as well. We do have a poll up over on the YouTube side for our spectators. Will we see a caution tonight? The 2 options are yes, it's totally going to be Dawn's fault for saying it's been a caution-free race so far and she's enjoying the green flag racing. And the other option is no caution. Fans' curse is a myth. Fans' curse, kind of the little brother to the commentator's curse. So right now, 67% of our viewers are saying we're going to run this thing clean and green till the end, while 33% are saying yes, and they're totally pointing the finger at Dawn. So I touch on your point as well, Mason. I think you're right. These guys are playing long-term chess here. They're thinking about those last 20 to 30 laps where every little bit of traction is going to matter, and that's where we're going to see kind of some big moves being made. Right now, as I say that, I'm trying to see who we just saw get a little bit sideways. Was that, I wonder, Koulibaly maybe stepping out the back end, that number 22 machine. So, I mean, we're about 30 laps into this run for most drivers, and this is what you're talking about. These guys are kind of fighting the cars, trying to put that power down. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mason, these machines making 700 plus horsepower. Not a lot of downforce in Milwaukee with how flat it is, so they are being very ginger on the throttle to make these laps happen and do so as quickly as they possibly can.
Yeah, there is a lot of power underneath the hood of these cars, and it can make it extremely challenging to take these cars around tracks like this where you don't have banking to kind of work with and kind of support you in those turns. And we'll take a listen on board here with Howie Briss in the number 97 machine and hopefully get an idea of what we're talking about here. I'll turn up the volume for you watching at home and just kind of listen to the throttle input here from Howie Briss as he makes his way out of turn 4 across the checkered line here, you'll get a little bit of a better idea of what we're talking about. You can hopefully hear this over the sound of me talking here, and hopefully it's not too loud for those of you watching, but have a listen for just a second as he comes down the back straight, works through 3 and 4. Just listen. Very, very cautious, like putting a feather on the pedal. It's very, very eloquent. Well, not eloquent, but it's they have to be extremely steady with the throttle input here on this track, because if you try and slam that pedal down to the floor, if you are just an inch too aggressive on that pedal, it can mean disaster. Like James already mentioned, these cars having as much power that they do, over 700 horsepower, and I don't recall what the wheel horsepower is, but it's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. But with that being said, these cars are nothing to mess around with, and they are very, very easy to wreck rather than keep going in a straight line here. So these drivers are doing phenomenal at what they're doing at the moment, and given that they are now a little bit over halfway into their second runs here, we'll hopefully start to see, maybe some of these drivers want to push a little bit more. We've already seen... Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, James.
I didn't mean to step on you there, bud. I did pull it up. We're putting out about 725 horsepower, unless we're at speedways. Then they drop it down to 400 because they would go insanely fast. And yeah, I mean, 110-inch wheelbase. I think the only car, in my experience from this sim, that's tougher to drive than these Gen 4 ARCA cars might be the super late model, as far as just raw horsepower getting put down. I mean, these things are just wickedly fast, and I'm trying to see if I can pull up. I mean, these actually make more than the super late model. Super late model's putting out about 550 horsepower, and they're 358 cubic inch V8. So these, I think, might be one of the fastest, nastiest cars you can find on the service, and it's a lot of fun watching these guys. They make it look easy from up here in the broadcast booth and for the fans at home, and as you and I both know from experience, definitely not the case.
No, it is quite the opposite here. As what in the world is going on here for the 45 machine of Nicholas Corcel? There was a wobble coming out of that car as he came out of turn 4. I'm not 100% certain what was happening there. He might have just been trying to correct it from... Man, he might have started to get a little loose there. I'm not 100% certain, but definitely seeing some weird things happening there from the 45 machine. He managed to correct it, and it seemed like nothing else came out from it, but definitely a little concerning there at some point. And it looks like Thomas Sewell dropping back here a little bit. I think we have a couple different drivers out here that are purely only staying in this just to survive. They're not looking to score points or anything like that, and that's the beauty of the Velocity Racing League. You have a mixed bag of drivers that are both there for the competition, but are also there for the fun of it, so on and so forth. And some drivers are just there for the fun of it, and that's perfectly fine too. And that's what makes the community here with VRL so great, is that they all share the common goal of having good, clean racing, and I think they do a great, excellent job of producing that week in and week out. As we're lap 92 of 200, we're watching as Howie Briss, Nicholas Corcel, and Benjamin Lacey start to close in on one another. Benjamin Lacey being the driver with the youngest set of tires out there. That's a little weird to say, but Benjamin Lacey out there with the youngest set of tires out there, and showing that he, according to timing and scoring, he's got a little bit more pace than that of Nicholas Corcel and Howie Briss currently ahead of him. Compared to Tony Hillbrands and Jaden Hopp, it looks to be he's roughly neck and neck with those drivers. So we'll wait and see if he's going to be able to make these passes around both Corcel and Howie Briss as they work their way through 3 and 4. Benjamin Lacey still closing the gap here on the 45 Sour Patch machine. And James, I mean, if you're Benjamin Lacey in this point in the race, you came down way later than everyone else. I mean, what kind of strategy are you thinking to play out here? I mean, we've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but you see, we've already got him up here in 5th place. He's chasing down 4th. I mean, what's the strategy you think here?
Yeah, Lacey's in an interesting spot. He kind of can set the pace from behind these other drivers and maybe kind of keep the pressure, see if he can force them to use up a little bit more tire as Lacey moves his way up into 4th. His next target's going to be Howie Briss in that 97 machine, but yeah, he's got 2 different plays here. He can kind of stay behind, press the issue, and force the other drivers to use a little bit more tire than they want. And I mean, that could have been Coruscant's call saying, all right, this guy's got fresher tires underneath him. Let me kind of hop out of the way, let him by. And it's going to be very interesting to see. He can either play it safe, try and save tires throughout the run, or maybe more importantly, get some clean air on the front of that number 7 machine and kind of make things happen. As here comes Lacey. I think he's going to make a move for 3rd here.
Yeah, Lacey is definitely on the hunt, and I think it's going to be a strong night here for Lacey. As looking at the championship standings at the moment, Benjamin Lacey sits 13th, and from last week's race, he actually moved up 2 spots as he, if you recall, finished 2nd at Myrtle Beach. So, I mean, Benjamin Lacey carrying that momentum from last week and taking it here tonight at Milwaukee. I think Benjamin Lacey is on fire here tonight. And as we're approaching the halfway mark in tonight's race, you know, it's still a long 100 so laps to go before we see that checkered flag. So again, you gotta stay on, you gotta be careful. You gotta stay on your toes. You really gotta keep your eye out for things and try and stay as consistent as you possibly can be. And I think Benjamin Lacey, you know, I don't know, Benjamin's showing Howie Briss, he's not the only consistent guy out there on track. You know, Benjamin has, I haven't seen this guy really make a mistake yet at all, I think, during this race so far. And being that he stayed out the longest amongst any of these drivers, James, I mean, this Benjamin's really showing some strong arms here tonight.
Yeah, he's kind of hammering down here. It's going to be interesting to see. He's about 6.8 seconds back from Hilbrun's, running almost identical lap times last time by, but now we've got clean air on the number 7. I'm going to be curious to see what the call is going to be. Is he going to kind of wake it up a little bit and try and catch up to the rest of the field? Or is he just going to go back into tire and fuel saving mode now that he's got clean air? It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, he gained about a 10th on Hilbrun's that last lap. Hilbrun's, though, also kind of reeling in Jayden Hopp, about a 2nd separating the top 2 drivers. It's going to be interesting to see as we're on board with Lacey now. You can see the micro inputs on the wheel trying to be just as smooth as he possibly can. But Hilbrun's, the 92, coming down pit road once more for his 2nd stop of the race. This is going to switch things up a little bit on strategy as the cross green and white flags are out here at Milwaukee. Barney, our flagman, signaling the halfway mark of today's main event. That's going to put Hopp still in the number 1 spot. Lacey moves up to 2nd. Now Howie Briss in the final podium spot. Lacey finds himself about 7.5 seconds back from Hopp, but oh, here we go. Hopp's coming down pit road.
Things are looking interesting here at Milwaukee, the halfway mark in today's race, and drivers coming down into pit road a lot sooner than what we were expecting here. But, I mean, James, drivers all having 5 sets of tires to utilize here tonight. I mean, it's not exactly unorthodox, but the fact that they've come in, you know, pretty much 50 laps on the dot here, you know, I don't know, trying to work out the math here, it's probably going to be a 3-stop race for most of these drivers, but the one standout driver that we've all got to be aware of is this one right here, Benjamin Lacey, that number 7 machine. Is he going to follow suit? Is he going to stick with the crowd? Is he going to follow every other driver down here into the pits within the next couple laps? Or is he going to stick it out here and stay out until that lap 110, 112, 115 mark that I kind of predicted a little bit earlier? And also, is Howie Briss, Nicholas Corcel, Scott Shire, are they going to try and do the same here? Are they going to try and stay out a little bit longer this time around? Maybe push their next pit stop a little bit later into their last stint before the end of the race here. You're entering into the final half. Maybe some drivers are shaking up the strategies here a little bit, knowing that they've got one standout driver there that's kind of stirring the pot here quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how it's going to happen. I think, Lacey, if I was in that position, the number 7, now getting
Whoa.
even more laps led. Oh, I heard it. I didn't see it,
Fitz.
Mason. What was going on there?
Looks like Fitz into the wall. Big contact into the wall. Not necessarily big, but a big slide across the wall here for the 69 machine of Fitz. I'm not sure if that was just a little bit of he just took it a little bit too deep into 3, excuse me, and just didn't slow it down enough in time. But yeah, Fitz scraping the side of that 69 machine a little bit more than he probably would have liked to. But yeah, sorry to cut you off there, James, but yeah, it's looking to be quite interesting out here tonight.
Yeah, no worries at all. I had a different camera angle pulled up on my screen. I don't know. I mean, that would be heartbreaking for somebody such as Lacey, who's kind of dedicated to a pit strategy at this point. I think Lacey, he's going to stay out to about that lap 120 mark or so, but I mean, that's still going to put him 20 laps short at the end. However, he's going to have very fresh tires if he comes down pit road, 20, 30 laps before the checkered flag. That could be all that is needed to really go out there and kind of hot lap in a very abbreviated run. I'm not quite sure when the tires have been falling off for these drivers. I haven't kept too much of an eye on those lap times, but that could very well be a call. That way he's got the shortest stint to run at the end. And it looks like it's still going to be about a 3-lap stop for every driver if I'm looking at this correct. So that could work out well for Lacey, putting himself in a very good position to really hammer down on lap times. His fastest lap time of the race, a 30.28. That's very close to Briss, who had a .26. Hilbrun's with a .25. It's just going to be all about averaging those runs down and seeing who can keep that average lap time the lowest. So I don't know. Lacey could very much be a dark horse in this thing and really have something for these other drivers if, and it's a big if we can go caution-free till the end.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really curious to see here. If we're going to see that green flag race here tonight at Milwaukee, which would kind of be excuse me, let me get my words out properly. It would be unorthodox to see, given the nature of flat tracks in general, to see a green flag race, a 200-lap race at that, at a flat track would definitely be a little surprising, to say the least. Granted, we've got 10 drivers out here on track at the moment. That still doesn't take away from the fact that things can always happen. Accidents are always just a turn away, if you will. But these drivers have managed to keep this race green 108 laps so far. So extremely incredible to see the consistency and see how well these drivers have handled this race here today. As Howie Briss, Nicholas Corso, they're going to come in nearly bumper to bumper down into pit road. And James, I'm wondering if Corso almost smacked the rear end of the 97 of Howie Briss as they were coming in here. Let's see if I can get a very quick look at the replay here of these two coming down into pit road here while we have just a little bit of time. It's not exactly a whole lot happening out here on track at the moment, but I just want to see here for just a second if we have a close. Oh yeah, Corso came very close.
Yeah, I mean, and that was good timing as well. The fans just asked, like, hey, seems like the pit wall kind of getting really big as these drivers hammer down pit road. And you're absolutely right. Coming through 3 and 4, you almost have to make 4 a decreasing radius to kind of keep turning to the left into pit road. And not a very big entrance here in Milwaukee. Very easy to make a bit of a bobble and tag either that inside wall, and the car naturally wants to drift right into those water cans to set up a safety barrier on the divider line. Benjamin Lacey comes down pit road a little bit early on this pit stop, lap 111, switching up the strategy. That's going to give Hilbrun's back the race lead. Jayden Hopp in very close pursuit of that 92. Less than 4/10 separating those drivers. Only 1 lap difference on pit road as well. And we might see some racing here on lap 111.
I think we just might here. Jayden Hopp is on fire here in the number 81 machine, as he is just staying calm and steady here, not trying to be too aggressive through these turns. Let the straightaways do most of the work for you. If you can get into that slipstream, if you can get into that draft, you can close that gap and bring that battle to you. You don't necessarily have to work for it in the turns and try and burn off your rubber, trying to send it into the turn, trying to get into the inside. And I think Jayden Hopp is very well aware of that. You've got plenty of room on these straightaways to work with. Now, if we were at, say, Nashville Fairgrounds, for example, you wouldn't be able to do something like that. It would be nearly impossible to utilize the draft on the straightaways. But here, Milwaukee, different story. You've got plenty of straightaway to work with, and Jaden Hopp is nearly to the tail end of that number 92 machine. And Tony Hilbrands is going to be looking at his rear views at this moment, and if he even is looking at them, he's probably just trying to ignore them at this point and just do his race, as, again, we're in that halfway mark of tonight's race, and it's all about staying clean, staying consistent, and just continuing to do what you have been doing for the past 100 or so laps. So Tony Hilbrands, he's in the hot seat, and Jaden Hopp, he is definitely on the hunt here. Lap 114 of 200 here for the Milwaukee 200. It's been some great racing here tonight, folks, and I hope everyone has been enjoying the show here, as both myself and James, I've been enjoying the race here, James. I don't know about what your thoughts are, but I'm sure it's probably much the same.
Yeah, super impressed with these guys. We're 115 laps in, and the race lead still only separated by about 0.4 of a second as we're on board Hopp's 81 machine, or we were, as we back out and check out a little bit of an overhead view of this battle for the lead. Again, Hilbrands came down pit road on lap 99, Hopp on lap 100. So for all intents and purposes, about the same pit stop strategy for these two drivers. That would put them back down pit road in about 35 laps on lap 150. I'm going to be interested to see maybe Hilbrands and Hopp might stretch out a little bit. We know we can go about 62 laps on fuel based on what we saw Lacey do. Lacey only did about 50 laps on his last pit stop, so maybe figuring something else out, maybe talking to a crew chief saying, hey, we're losing too much time over the run. It's better to short pit a little bit as we are on board Hilbrands. The rear view camera checking out the big grill of that 81 machine. Hopp staying right there with him, though. Hopp up one spot, Hilbrands is up 3, and I mean, I'm very impressed with how few drivers remain out on track. We've got about 10 drivers of our 15 entries still out there burning laps. Still great racing. This race very much undecided here at Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, it is far from being done. And it's almost kind of like a super speedway in the sense that you really don't know how this race is going to end until that checkered flag is out. So anything can still happen, and it is still a long race left to be seen here. And I was just chuckling here at Carl Fitz's message here. Well, my bad jokes cursed my son. I couldn't relate any more than that. It's being my son is not quite as old as Matthew here, but he's 4 now, and seeing some of the things that he gets himself into just makes me chuckle. But anyhow, enough of that talk here. As Jaden Hopp continuing his fight up into the lead here. Benjamin Lacey, I just want to touch on here, is in that third place spot. He managed to come in and out of pit road and stay in the top 3 here. James, I mean, if Benjamin was in the strategy game, or in the strategy business, I should say, he would be a master in it, I think, for tonight's race at Milwaukee. I don't know exactly if he planned this or if this was just kind of a spontaneous thing that he did, but it seems to be working well in the favor of the number 7 tonight, as even if he doesn't come away with a win here at top 3, after coming away with another top 3 from last week at Myrtle Beach, absolutely incredible here for Benjamin, and it's going to mean some serious points for himself in the Drivers' Championship. And I think, kind of halfway in the season, might be considered late to some, but I think it's still a great time to, push your way up into, hopefully for him, the top 10, and maybe even if he's looking to continue this success, maybe the top 5.
Yeah, that's what Hopp's doing right now, kind of keeping the pressure on Hilbrands. Hilbrands doesn't really have much of an opportunity to back off the pace. He's got Hopp really keeping the pressure on, and this is kind of that cat and mouse we were talking about earlier. Is just because you're out front doesn't necessarily mean that you are setting the pace, so to speak. It's the guy behind you keeping the pressure on, and Hilbrands wants to keep it up front, keep that clean air, and really doesn't have an opportunity because, yeah, it's a great shot. It's Hopp 2/10 off the back of Hilbrands. And, these guys kind of really playing with each other here and saying, All right, if you want to keep that lead, we're going to burn up some tires, and let's see how good that tire management is on that thing. Very mindful of the front right as well as the right rear. Kind of easing into the corners, not putting too much weight, too much pressure on the front right, but conversely, coming out of turn 2 and turn 4, very gingerly on the throttle, not wanting to light up that right rear. And if you do so, it makes the car very, very greasy and tough to hold on to. And oh man, Hop is right there with that 92 and really keeping that pressure on.
Yeah, and you've really got to wonder too, who is going to be the one to kind of bite the bullet here, if you will, the metaphorical bullet, as you know, they're both pushing to their limits here at this point in the race. And I can't imagine that either one of these drivers are exactly tire saving at this point. I don't think there's any of that going on between either one of these drivers. They're both pushing tooth and nail to stay ahead, or well, in Tony Hildebrand's case, to stay ahead of Jaden Hopp. And Jaden's doing all that he can to stay in the mirrors of that 92 machine. And Tony Hildebrand's, he's had some rough races in both this season and last season, and I think Tony is looking for that breath of fresh air, and he's looking for that good, clean race that he's been fighting for all season long. He's had a couple different successes here. Not so much in the sense of wins, but he's come away with a couple pole positions, a few different top fives, and so on and so forth. But if he can keep up this pace here, if he can keep up this fight between himself and Jaden Hopp, I mean, a win is going to be absolutely incredible here for Tony. But it's not going to be an easy win for Tony, and not for Jaden Hopp either, or Benjamin Lacey. These three drivers are, all three of them, they're in the hot seat. They're the ones that we're watching up here in the booth, and I'm pretty sure most of you are watching at home, as these guys are all fighting tooth and nail for their win here tonight. And with just under 75 laps left to go, time's ticking. We're clicking off lap times of about 30 seconds a lap, so do the math. There's not a whole lot of time left for these drivers, and when you're behind the wheel, I mean, it kind of can feel like at times time slows down, even though you're going 150 miles an hour. It definitely feels like that adrenaline can start to make things go a little bit slower than usual. But I think Tony and Jaden, they're both locked in, they're both focused, and
oh, here we go.
It's starting to heat up here between the two as they go through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, Tony's really been chasing a bit of a dry spell. It's way back February 13th, one of the Daytona dual rounds. The last time we saw that 92 machine in the top spot here at Victory Lane. Jaden Hopp a little bit more familiar to the winner's circle this season. I want to say, yeah, the most wins so far of any driver. He is not going to be able to make it 2 in a row since Howie Briss interrupted the Hop show back and forth. I mean, these two, Briss and Hop, have been trading off the last couple weeks. We had Martinsville going to Briss, Richmond going to Hop, Myrtle Beach going back to Briss. But Hilbrand's, he's like, I want my name up on those recent wins. Let's try and make it 2 this season so far. But very impressed to see how much pressure Hop is putting on Hilbrand's here, and kind of working that 92 from behind. The lap times, they're starting to really drop off. Last time by, a 31.86 for Hilbrand's, a 31.96 for Hop. As we wait for it to update, oh, they found some more time there. Each driver dropping about 3 to 4 tenths, clicking off about 31.6s. So, I mean, we're 30 laps into this run. We know they've consistently been doing about 50 before these top 2 drivers come down pit road. I'm going to be interested to see about lap 45 of this run where their times are going to be, because they are really, really on the gas here.
Yeah, and just looking at chat too, Don is Don's tired of us talking about Tony in his past races here, but I'm rooting for Tony wholeheartedly. I really do hope that Tony can pull something off here today, and if he can pull it off with having Jaden Hopp right on his tail here as well, I mean, I don't think Tony would. Man, there would be a lot of momentum coming out of that 92 machine after tonight if things go well, and if all goes according to plan here. As right now, it's a little bit overcasty here at Milwaukee, so we're seeing the cloud coverage come into play here. It has been all race long, so the sun really hasn't had any time to peek its head out and warm any part of this particular track here. So, I mean, it's kind of been a consistent race here pretty much all race long. I mean, as far as track temperatures are concerned and so on and so forth. So, you know, having that consistency on the track, I think, is what's providing the consistency for the drivers here as well. Maybe not so much, you know, just from that alone, but I think, you know, not having the sun only warming turns 1 and 2 versus, you know, none of it or all of it, whatever the case might be. I think you understand what I'm trying to say here, but, you know, these drivers have had probably the best opportunity or best race here to just focus on their racing, not necessarily having to worry about, okay, I gotta be here at this part of the track and then be here at this other part of the track because they don't work the same and yada, yada, yada. I could bore you all with technical details, but you get my point.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Hilbrens is up here at Milwaukee, such a technical track, kind of shows his prowess as a driver. He hasn't had too many opportunities to kind of show that off this season, being involved in a lot of just unfortunate mistakes that, I don't even want to say mistakes, a better word would probably be incidents that weren't necessarily his fault. So good to see Hilbrens back up here in the mix and kind of showing like, hey, I'm a top driver here in VRL if I'm not getting involved in somebody else's misfortune. And I'm very intrigued to see how this one's going to shake down. We got about 15 laps until the fuel window, or I guess I should say the tire window closes for these drivers based on their previous strategy calls. And Hop just kind of pacing and stalking and shadowing that 92 machine. I don't think we're going to see Hop make a move here in this run. I think Jaden's going to kind of tuck in behind, see what Hilbrens is doing. I think we're going to have a pretty wild 50-lap shootout till the end of this thing.
Yeah, you know, and the other thing that I kind of thought about here as well is, you know, could we potentially see an undercut play from Jaden? You know, could he, I mean, this is all theoretical, but could we see that, you know, Jaden come in a lap or two earlier than Tony to try and just get those tires, get that fuel before Tony makes his entry down into pit road and try and swing his way into the lead just through pit strategy alone. But then you also have to consider as well, Benjamin Lacey is also out here on the hunt as well. Dawn Hilbrand's mentioning in the chat, Benjamin Lacey's starting to catch up, and that is very much true. As Lacey, according to timing and scoring, is showing he is closing in on our leaders here at the moment. And as, I mean, Hilbrand's and Jaden Hop has taken the lead here. As I was talking there for a minute, Jaden Hop going to be your race leader now. These two are going to continue their fight here. Tony Hilbrand's going to have to try and stay on the tail end of that number 81 machine, as they're going to come into a little bit of lap traffic in the form of Matthew Fitz. They're working their way now again through turns 1 and 2. Tony Hilbrand's now going to have to try and do all that he can to stay with Jaden Hop and not lose sight of him. But again, Benjamin Lacey, you know, he has nothing but clean air around him. He's going to be able to continue to just click off laps here. And given that he has the youngest set of tires out on track, he's got the fastest pace at the moment. So, I mean, James, we've got all kinds of different strategies being played out here, and it's going to be an exciting checkered flag here tonight at Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Lacey's got the gap down about 6.5 seconds to Hilbrens. It was up to 8 at one point, I believe. And as you said, he's got 10-lap newer tires underneath him in that number 7 machine. And I'm very intrigued to see what the strategy is going to be called. If Hop and Hilbrens stay true to form, we'll see them coming down pit road in about 9 to 12 laps, unless we see some sort of different strategy, a little bit of an audible, maybe an undercut we talked about with Hop, but I don't think at this point we're going to see an undercut from Hop. I think he's going to stay true to strategy. I think Hilbrens kind of in the position where he needs to try something different. Or Hilbrens could be saying, you know, this is a championship. I'm maybe content getting a second. As I say that, I realize Tony probably won't go that route. He really wants another win. So I think Tony's going to throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks here at Milwaukee. But, man, I don't know how this is going to break down. And, again, I'm still have big eyes on Benjamin Lacey. Now the gap's down to 6 seconds and closing fast from the third-place driver, catch up to the top 2. I think Lacey might be putting himself in a very good position here to try and make something happen on pit strategy, on tire strategy. I think this could very much be all the difference.
Yeah, this is turning into a wild, wild race here. And, you know, even only having as few drivers as we have on the track at the moment. It looks like only 9 drivers are still out here on track after the 15 that have started here. Just a lot of drivers just deciding it's not their night here, and it's proving to be a tough race here for some drivers. But for those of them that are still sticking it out here, it's proving to be a true race of strategy and just attrition, I think, is the best way to describe it. Just everyone trying their best to stay in the mix of things and not fall too far down the pack here at the moment. And it looks like the worst possible position that you can finish here at the moment is going to be 9th place. James Coulibaly currently sitting in that spot here at the moment in the number 22 machine, with Scott Shire just ahead of him at the moment. We've got a few different drivers who are going to be down a lap or 2 or more. So, you know, with that being said, it's all going to come down to, it looks like, the top 4, Jaden Hopp, Tony Hillbrands, Benjamin Lacey, and Howie Briss, that are ultimately going to be putting on some of the quote-unquote battles here going into the, well, final stint of the race here, as we're lap 143 of 200. Matthew Fitz coming down into the pits here for the number 69 machine. We're going to see if he's going to come back out here. I didn't get a chance to look at what his previous pit lap was, but I'd have to imagine that coming in here a little bit earlier than what we were expecting. But
ooh, Hilbrand's coming down pit road as well. A bit of an undercut, 6 laps prior than we were thinking it is his schedule. Hop stays out, so this is what we were talking about, the late race audibles. Going to be interesting to see how this bodes well for Tony. And Mason, I'm a little worried. We saw 62 laps, I believe, was the longest run we saw of these drivers. I'm curious if Tony can make it to the end here before the tires just kind of hit a wall and really fall out. I'm not sure if maybe Tony's going to try and get out front and kind of make that car a little bit 3 wide. But now Hop also coming down pit road a lap later than Tony. I don't know how this is going to shake out.
Yeah, this is turning out to be a little bit more chaotic of an end to the race here than what I was expecting. Benjamin Lacey now going to take that lead position here in the number 7 machine as he comes out of turn 2 onto the back straight. Howie Briss retains his 2nd place position and is going to be the only other driver here in the top 3 that are going to come in early, I guess is the best way to describe it here. I mean, I'm not expecting to see Benjamin to come in to pit road here until about lap 160. If he does come in a little bit earlier, like you said, James, I mean, the most that we've seen was 62 laps, and for Jaden Hopp, I mean, he's coming in, that's going to be 66 laps that he's going to have to complete on those set of tires. Tony Hillbrands, a little bit more than that, 67. Howie Briss also coming into the pit. I don't know, James. I mean, are we going to see a 4-stop race for these drivers? I can't imagine that they want to do a 4-stop race, but it really does not look like this track is going to allow them to make that happen here, as it looks like the sun is starting to peek its head out of the clouds, and we're going to start to see the track temperatures possibly be slightly affected here as we enter into what will be our final 50 laps of the race here for the Milwaukee 200.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's really going to depend, and I think Leahy is going to kind of dictate how the strategy call is going to go. If he repeats his max fuel run of 62 laps, that puts his next pit stop around 172, but as soon as I say that, he comes down pit road on lap 147, and so technically, if I'm looking at this right, that should give him over 9 laps of fuel, assuming 62 laps is the most he could do on fuel. So, I mean, Lacey should be good to go till the end, but that's going to put other drivers such as Hop, such as Hillbrands, in kind of a weird, I mean, even Howie Briss kind of in a weird spot. If they go till the end on lap 200, that's going to be their longest fuel run and tire run that they've done all evening. And it's very interesting to see at this point in the race to see drivers kind of switching things up. I don't know how this is going to shape up, but this is going to put Lacey, I believe, back down to 4th. I think Briss might make his way around. No, I think Lacey's going to be able to keep the momentum here using those fresh tires, 2-lap fresher tires in Briss. So I don't know how much it's going to change things in the top 3, but I'd imagine by lap 180, we're going to see some really slower drives around the corners, as tire wear is 100% going to be a major issue here.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's very close for these drivers. I mean, we're talking only just a few laps for most of them, but whether or not they're going to be able to fuel save or tire save to the checkered flag is, I mean, it's going to be extremely close. And I mean, we've seen it in the past. Some drivers in the past have taken it across the checkered line on literal fumes. But whether or not we're going to see that here tonight, I mean, I can't say for certain. Drivers really haven't had any opportunities here to, you know, have side-by-side battles, other than when the green flag dropped here. Once lap 3, lap 4 came around, that was pretty much done for. Everyone was in their own single-file groove, and it was pretty much down to just staying out there, staying consistent, and, you know, executing your pit stops to, you know, as best as your ability, and just staying out there until the checkered flag. Everyone here, most drivers here, I would say a little bit over half the field have done that. It's just a matter of, you know, I guess now what kind of games they're trying, well, not games, but what kind of strategies they're going to try and play out here with, you know, under 50 laps left to go. They've all come in before lap 150, so I don't know, James. I think this is going to be a very interesting finish to tonight's race, but given that between Jaden Hopp and Tony Hilbrands, there's quite a considerable gap between them. Benjamin Lacey and Tony Hilbrands, same thing. Howie Briss is trailing behind Benjamin Lacey, but according to time and scoring, he's fallen off the pace here just a little bit and might even just be, I don't know, James. I think Howie might be doing what you're thinking here, and or at least what you mentioned, and backing off, saving those tires, saving that fuel, and waiting until the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a tough call to make with drivers coming down pit road between lap 143 and then Lacey a later pit stop with a 147. Each of the top 4 drivers have completed 3 stops so far this evening, but I mean, you've also got Scotty Schuer, and the number 4 machine has not come down pit road since lap 109, so he's thinking maybe making this a 3-stop race. So 2 different strategies at play here amongst the drivers, and I don't know how it's going to break down. I mean, Scotty Schuer, if he pulls what I like to call the Lacey a late run, that's going to put his next pit stop around lap 170, leaving him 29 to go till the end. I don't know what's going to happen here with the top 3 drivers who hypothetically could make it till the end on fuel. It's going to be a little bit close for some of these guys, especially watching the lap time start to really drop off, but I still think really anybody inside the top 5, I think from what I'm seeing, still has a chance. Now, as these laps click off and we get down to about 20, 25 left to go, that list of possibilities is going to narrow just a little bit here in Milwaukee, but I do not know what's going to happen here. This is going to be a very interesting one based on different driver strategies. Who could maybe bring home a win here?
Yeah, based on what I'm seeing here, you know, we've got a few different possibilities. I mean, if Jaden Hopp can stay out in front, you know, and if he doesn't come down into the pit road again before the end of the race here, I mean, he very well could take away a win here. However, given that we've already kind of discussed this and that we still have yet to see Scott Schuer as well as Logan Jones, a few other drivers as well that we haven't mentioned here that also have yet to come down pit road as well. I mean, James, I think the door is wide open for a lot of these drivers here, and if they can play it to their favor, I mean, Scott Shire is probably, well, here goes Thomas Sewell, the number 77 machine. He's saying enough is enough. He's going to come down into the pit road himself, as Scott Shire is going to actually let Jaden Hopp on by, putting Scott a lap down here. So I don't know, maybe these drivers aren't necessarily thinking too much about you know, a late pit stop, a late race strategy, if you will, and maybe just trying to stay out as long as they can and trying to avoid, you know, what we were discussing earlier with drivers coming across the line with very minimal fuel and so on and so forth. I think these guys are just trying to make it as easy for themselves as possible for the checkered flag. I could be wrong, but I also could be right here. I guess we will find out here as things progress on. Lap 159 of 200. 40-ish laps left to go here before we see the checkered flag fly. 159 laps of green flag racing here at Milwaukee. I don't think I would have ever thought it was possible, but here we are, Velocity Racing League making it happen, the impossible here right before our eyes. And I think it's, well, not necessarily impossible, but definitely not easy, to say the least.
Yeah, very, I'd say, rare at the minimum. Now, there is going to be a little bit of lap traffic kind of thrown in the mix. I think drivers are going to be very, very careful here with 40 left to go. And as the spectators were saying as well here tonight, everybody's kind of wondering, are we going to see drivers come down with about 15, 20 to go and be a mad dash shootout? And at that point, it's always a tough spot for the drivers as well. You get kind of used to a car that's changing between loose, tight, and then loose again, to suddenly find yourself with fresh tires underneath you, and the car all of a sudden very loose again. As trying to see who that was in the big yellow machine have a bit of a moment. I think that was the 22. No, yes, I think it was Koulibaly. Had a little bit of a snap loose condition as well there. Had to be careful. Koulibaly's last pit stop, lap 108, so he's going way long as far as strategy. But that has to be a precarious moment for these drivers, not wanting to be that guy late into a race that would bring out a very late race caution with how clean and green the run has been so far. And a good intel as well. The spectators thinking last time we ran here in Milwaukee, we saw 6 or 7 cautions. So to see things running so clean so far, clean-ish, it's got to be tough for these drivers.
Yeah, I've actually got a little bit of an update on that intel for you, James, and for everyone watching at home. The last time we were here at Milwaukee, we had 17 cautions.
That's not good.
17 cautions, counting for 65 laps of our 200-lap race last year. So, folks, I would say from 2022 to now, this is a marginal improvement over what we saw last year. And for those of you who might be curious, last year the driver who took away the win for Milwaukee was Aaron Smith. Second place was James Miller, and third place was actually Scott Shire. So we're seeing some familiar faces working their way through this field, and for tonight, it's good to see Jaden Hopp is having continuing to have great success here in showing his dominance and showing that he has no intention of slowing down here, and not really showing any signs of getting complacent and getting comfortable up there in the lead. It's always a fight week in and week out, and I think Jaden Hopp is very well aware of that. Tony Hillebrand's also having a very good race here today. I think, James, given, we both talked about it, this track is kind of known, maybe known for it, but it's expected almost that you're going to see at least one of those pesky little yellow flags fly at least once during the race. But here for these drivers here tonight, they've had this opportunity that you don't really get to see too often here at this particular track, and flat tracks in general, is just long green flag runs. And I think that plays a crucial part in for a lot of drivers and for their overall success in a race. Is sometimes some drivers, those restarts can maybe have a little bit of a hindrance on you. You get out of the groove a little bit, you get out of your mindset a little bit, because you have a second to maybe take a drink of water, or look at your other screen or something that's up, whatever the case might be, whatever drivers happen to do during that very, very precious amount of free time that you have in the car when those yellow flags happen. But point being, I think every single driver here has benefited from the fact that we've stayed green flag this long. And James Koulibaly now actually coming down into pit road, the number 22 machine, going to be, I think, one of the last drivers to come down into pit road here, and that is going to, well, hopefully, maybe be one of the last pit stops of the race here. That is yet to be determined. And I think, James, just to talk about or just to mention it, I think Dawn was right. I think 15 to 20 to go. We'll see another pit stop from our leaders, and I think it's going to really spice things up here as Jaden Hopp, still our race leader. Tony Hillebrand's in second place, Benjamin Lacey in third, Howie Briss in fourth, and Logan Jones sitting in that fifth place position here at the moment.
Yeah, I'm still intrigued to see if maybe Lacey's going to try something on pit strategy. I think you're right. I think the fans are right as well. We're going to see Hop and Hilburns come down pit road with about 15, 20 left to go. But I still think there's going to be one or two drivers that try something a little bit different. It might be Lacey, it might be Briss, but I think somebody's going to try and pull this off on strategy. The question is, for these drivers, will they get enough of an advantage trying to stay out with those slower lap times? It's going to kind of slow the entire duration of their run. I mean, by a fair amount. These guys are about 1.25 seconds off their fastest lap of the race late into the run on these older tires. Will they have enough time? Will they save the about 35 seconds it takes to get on and off pit road to make this thing out to the end? It's going to be a real big gamble if anybody tries it, but I mean, I think that's what Lacey and Briss have to do if they want any shot of winning this thing. I don't see them whittling away that 11-second gap to Hop out front if they try and stay on the same strategy as everybody else. I mean, this is going to be very, very tough, and I don't know what's going to happen here. And as a broadcaster and a racer myself, I love these types of races where we don't know what's going to happen based on strategy. It kind of allows the racers to show their prowess both on the track as well as they're planning their foresight and their race smarts in a race such as this in Milwaukee. And green flag runs always a lot of fun for me up in the booth, and kind of showing a little bit something different from these drivers. We know who has the short run pace week in and week out. Just a little bit something different, allowing these drivers to kind of show what they got for the fans here at Milwaukee.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this has been a great showing of every single driver's abilities here tonight. I think it's been a great performance for every driver who's been here through the entirety of now the 172 laps that we've seen here at Milwaukee. And just kind of showing again, you know, the prowess of the drivers here with Velocity Racing League. The talent that is here is just absolutely incredible. And for those of you watching, for anyone who might tune into this broadcast, either whether it's now or in the future, if you want to become a part of this action, if you want to be on the track here with these drivers and see what you've got, head on over. You can actually find their Discord. I think we either have their Discord in the description of this broadcast, or you can head on over to to the Team Goon Squad Discord, and you can join that. You can find all of the information to the Velocity Racing League through our Discord and through some voodoo magic. But needless to say, folks, if you want some not short track, but if you want some good ARCA racing on the iRacing service, you want to check out Velocity Racing League, as they host a full-length race schedule, 36 races in total, and a few different Crown Jewel races sprinkled in there to make things even more exciting for not only us in the booth, but for everyone at home and in the driver's seat as well. So make sure you get involved and make sure you join up, because you don't want to be anywhere else for your ARCA racing. It is the place to be. And also, if you want to support what you see here, if you want to support Velocity Racing League, or if you just want to support us up here in the booth at Team Goon Squad, you can head on over to our website. Head on over to the merchandise section, and you can pick up some merchandise for whether it's Team Goon Squad, or if you pick up something for Velocity Racing League, 50% of the profits go directly back to them, to Tony Hilbrand specifically, to help him and the league to continue to support what they do and continue to put on these races, these great events in this great league that they have had for some time now. And frankly, for those of you that have purchased things and have supported the league, supported the series, and supported us, thank you so much. Thank you. It warms my heart to no extent. It makes me very happy to see the support being shared, not only for us, but for Velocity Racing League, for our drivers. It just puts a big smile on my face, and I thank each and every single one of you for helping us, helping Velocity Racing League, and I hope to continue to see that support carry forward for many years to come.
Yeah, we've been calling VRL for coming up on 2 years now, and I've got to say it's one of the cleanest ARCA races that I've ever had the pleasure of being involved with. And what's cool for me as a broadcaster as well, and I mean as well as a race fan, is watching these guys, all these drivers, get progressively better week in and week out and really honing in their racecraft. But Mason, it looks like we have a battle for 5th with Logan Jones and Scott Schuer going back and forth here I think Schuer had a bit of a blink or some sort of problem as he falls behind the number 3 machine, but with less than 23 laps left to go, still great racing all across the track. And both these drivers came in around that lap 150 pit mark, so on very equal tires. And excuse me, I misread that. Logan Jones, that was a lap 164 pit stop, so he's got relatively fresh tires underneath that number 3 machine and starting to put him to work. But I don't know if he's going to have enough time here. And the other big question is, with 22 to go, if and when are we going to see those top 4 drivers come down pit road? Are they going to stay out, kind of gamble with a really long run here? Or is somebody going to be the first one with an undercut and throw some fresh tires and try and make dreams happen?
Yeah, with 22 laps left to go, this is the time where those things tend to happen. And I also want to take this quick second here to give a shout out and thank you to Lindsay, who supported us on Patreon, which is something I forget to mention from time to time, but we are also on Patreon as well if you guys want to support Team Goon Squad. Just it helps us out incredibly to put on an in-house series such as our endurance series. Also helps us improve our broadcasting and allows us to get access to more different software and just different tools to play with and utilize for our broadcasting, things like that, and just various other things in the Team Goon Squad space that we try and use to bring you folks at home more coverage, more racing content, more things like that. And I know, James, I'm sure we won't talk about it here, but I know that we've got some real-life racing stuff coming up here in the future. We've got all different sorts of things coming up that you can be a part of and you can help support by heading on over to Patreon, over as well to our website, teamgoonsquad.com. Anything helps. It always is appreciated, and we thank everyone who has helped us already, so thank you.
Yeah, and Dawn said she's actually printing out or ordering some more VRL decals and handing them out at the local dirt track. Definitely gonna need to get some photos of that from her, so I'll make sure I can link up with her when possible, and we love to share that on our social media. I mean, we are a professional broadcast team, but deep down inside, we're also racers ourselves, and that's what Team Goon Squad goes to support, is some real-life racing shenanigans. So big ups to the fans, and it's really cool seeing that bridge kind of gapped between what I lovingly call my sim racing nerd family as well as the real life racing nerds. So just a very unique and very, I'm very thankful for the situation that we're in to kind of combine our two favorite things and kind of spread the racing love and helping other people kind of get bit by that adrenaline bug across the world. And yeah, very, very unique position. Very thankful for the position we're in.
Yeah, I don't think I would have ever thought we would ever be in this position when I first started doing broadcasting with you, what seems like forever ago now. But yeah, it is definitely very great to see all the support, all of the communities that have come together and shown their support week in and week out with the various leagues that we've broadcasted for, and so on and so forth. It's been absolutely incredible, and we've met a lot of great people along the way. And for those of you watching at home, you have the privilege of knowing that you are a part of that family as well. So thank you all. Yet again, I've said that a million times here, but as 16 laps are left to go here, we are winding down the clock and we are getting ready for the action to really start to boil down to the very, very end of it all. And I think Jaden Hopp, Tony Hilbrands, Benjamin Lacey, I mean, I think they're all kind of putting the eyes on each other right now and kind of wondering to themselves, and maybe even, radioing up to their crew chiefs and saying, hey, what's the deal here? What's the strategy? What's the play? What are we going to do to, take this thing to the end? Are we going to stay out all the way and just take it to the checkered flag? Or is there going to be a final, a 15-lap pit stop being made here? But James, I mean, with 15 laps left to go, I think this is a dangerous point in the race to make a pit stop. It could mean the end of it could be make it or break it here at this point, I think.
Yeah, I think at this point, all the drivers are going to stay out if they can. I mean, we've done 185 laps under green flag racing so far, and I think the last thing your top 4 drivers want to do is find themselves on pit road and maybe there be a late race caution. And we've seen it before, and I mean, countless other shows is it just takes a little lapse of judgment. Even though this is a small, tight track here in Wisconsin, guys are still hitting top speeds in excess of 150 miles an hour. so absolutely blitzing in these ARCA Menard Gen 4 NASCARs. So I think Hop, Hilbrun's, Lacey, Briss, I think they're in it to win it at this point. And I'm very interested to see. I mean, all these guys are pretty much on identical pit strategies, almost identical tire calls as well. And I don't think we're going to see anybody come down if we can stay green. I think Hop is going to stretch this run as long as he can because he's 7.4 seconds, give or take a tenth above Hilbrun's, and not really losing much time. He's about actually 0.2 faster than Tony last time by. So I think Jaden's got every reason to stay out and kind of keep his head down and see what he can do.
Yeah, it's looking to be that way. We're 12 laps left to go. No one is showing any signs of coming down into pit road. I think this might be exactly what you just described, James. It's going to be just to keep your head down, keep things clean, and just take it to the checkered flag. But, you know, just because we've seen 188 laps go green, it does not mean that we won't see a mistake being made here that could hinder that here with 12 laps left to go. Will that happen? I think the chances of it, the probability of it is quite low. I don't think we will see that that yellow flag fly here, and I pray that we don't. And I hope to get to see actually a full green flag race here at Milwaukee, because I think that's just going to be a huge staple for these drivers and for the league. Just taking a tough oval track like this and just showing that, you know, we can keep a green race here at Milwaukee. I mean, they can do it just about anywhere, I think. And hopefully that is carried forward into the next few races that we have, and hopefully get to see the field kind of improve a little bit, get to see more drivers present for the next few races. I think today just kind of being one of those tracks on the schedule where you look at it as a driver and you just go, no, I don't feel like it. So I think some drivers taking the bye week and just opting not to be here, not to worry about it too much. But I mean, honestly, James, if I was them and looking back at the broadcast, if any of them do, they probably might regret that decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great race so far. Those that opted to ride the couch instead of the car tonight definitely missed out on a good one, and this has been allowing some guys to really show that, hey, on a driver's track, they've got what it's taken. Can't give a shout enough to Tony, who's been really good here. He came to tonight 5th in points. This could be a big momentum for that 92 machine to get back up in the hunt, but he's got to be careful. Benjamin Lacey, 9 laps left to go, has closed the gap to less than a half second of that number 92 machine. Lacey definitely our hard charger tonight. He's up 7 positions. Hilbrun's in second, Hop in first. They're both up 2 spots from where they originally qualified. So Lacey, who is definitely on a different strategy here this evening, ended up on the same strategy here at the end with about a 40-50 lap fuel run, showing, hey, you know, I practiced some long runs with some pretty terrible tires underneath me. I might be able to make a swing here at Hilbrun's as the gap is now closed to a 1/4 of a second, the battle for second.
Yeah, Lacey is showing he has got some late race pace here, and it is looking good here for the number 7 driver as they come down the front straightaway. He's going to get a good look to the inside of the number 92 machine, almost taking it door to door. He's on the left rear quarter panel and now door to door as they go through turns 1 and 2 onto the back straightaway. It's going to be Hilbrand's falling back into that 3rd place position. Lacey going to be moving up into 2nd. Hilbrand's going to try and put up a fight here going into 3. Hilbrand's going to stay right on the rear end, has to slow up just a little bit, and that's the thing about these flat tracks here, folks, is that it is unforgiving. A close bout here between Lacey and Hilbrand's as they head back into turn 1 and 2. Hilbrand's going to try and close that gap here yet again, but it is 6 laps left to go, and time is ticking.
Yeah, it looked like Tony had a lift there pretty heavy to get into the back of Lacey. Lacey's going to make that his 8th spot gained so far this evening, and I think we're about to see that number 7 machine hammer down. I don't think with 6 laps left to go, he's going to be able to close a 7.5 second deficit to race leader Jaden Hop, but got to give Lacey credit where credit is due as we're on board with Tony Hilbrand's. Lacey has been kind of trying a bunch of different stuff, and it looks like it could be good enough for second, but I think Tony, if he's got any tires left underneath that 92 machine, is going to put the loud pedal to the floor and see if he can close the gap back to Hop. But Hey, even if Tony hasn't settled for a third place finish tonight, that is a great run of that 92 machine. And again, it's all about points. Tony was 5th coming into tonight here in Milwaukee. 4 laps left to go. He is looking good, and this is what's going to bring home championships. Consistency. Being here each and every week, having those good, strong finishes wherever you can grab them. And I mean, I still definitely would not count Tony out of this championship yet, as next week we go to Lucas Oil Raceway, IRP. We go to Iowa Speedway 2 nights in a row. Or, yeah, for the, looks like, one is going to be an all-star race. One's going to be a crown jewel. We've got Road America. We've got Worldwide Technology, Gateway. Some very technical tracks coming up on the roster, and that's going to be very interesting. That has opportunity for some of these top 5 drivers to have their share of bad incidents. But Mason, we're 3 laps left to go, and I've got to say, this is some of the best racing in Milwaukee I've had the privilege of broadcasting.
Yeah, this is really starting to heat up here between these drivers, and you know, with 3 laps left to go, I think this is ultimately going to be the build-up, just the build-up going into the next few races for these drivers. As, you know, like you touched on, James, the battle for the championship, for the points in the championship, they are so close. Wherever you look on the board right now, I mean, there are battles all over the place. You know, you could look at the top 3, the top 6 essentially. It's close between them. The top 10, it's all over. I can go on and on here, folks, but, you know, like you mentioned, Tony Hilbrand's, if once we come across the line here, if white flag is out, it is flying from the flag stand, so they've only got to take it one more time around, and this is going to be the end of their race here today. We'll watch as Jaden Hopp makes his way out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, but as I was mentioning, you know, a lot of drivers here today, I think, are going to see a good points day. Jaden Hopp especially. Benjamin Lacey also going to have good points, carrying that momentum forward from last week. 2 back-to-back second-place finishes, as Jaden Hopp is also going to come across the line, bringing it 6 wins here for the number 81 machine. Benjamin Lacey adding on to his pole finishes here, as well as Tony Hilbrand's. But yeah, James, it is coming down to the wire as far as points is concerned, and being it's about halfway in the championship rate, or excuse me, in the schedule right now, I think this is about the perfect time where things are going to start to get heated up between drivers out on track, I think, week to week.
Yeah, I mean, what a great race. What a great championship so far. And, you know, Hopp, Lacey, and Hilbrand's absolutely ecstatic with how things went tonight. 200 laps, clean and green at Milwaukee. Apologies to one of our favorite fans, Don, for the joke about the spectator's curse. The fans were right tonight. Those who voted that we were going to go green to the end, absolutely on the money. And the fans very pumped to see Jaden back in that top spot. That 81 machine going to enjoy the limelight, smoking it down in Milwaukee, and a great race start to finish here.
Fantastic finish here for the 81 driver. Benjamin Lacey as well. Got to give credit there to Benjamin, as well as Tony Hilbrand's. Tony coming away with a top 3 finish in a tough race here as well. I mean, you know, I don't think any one of these drivers could have asked for a win here or a podium. I think it all just came down to their own skills, their own abilities as individual drivers to make it happen on their own volition. And I think that was just a phenomenal showcase of each and every single one of these drivers' abilities here tonight. As we're gonna get ready for some post-race interviews here as we get ourselves set up here in the booth, and just taking a look at some of the first action, or some of the first lap action that we had here on your screens at the moment, as the first driver that we're going to pull up here into the booth, excuse me, as I was reading, Tony Hilbrand's going to be the third place driver, coming away in third with the number 92 machine. Tony, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on an absolutely incredible finish here for the 92 machine. I mean, it was a heck of a fight out here. I mean, from the time that the green flag dropped to the time that the checkered flag dropped, it was just a matter of keeping yourself out there, executing each lap to near perfection, and just keeping yourself out there in the race to see the end. Tony, I mean, you know, flat track racing, it's not easy, and I mean, you managed to come away very consistent all race long, coming away with a podium. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm gonna have a short interview. I'm just gonna say a couple things. I'm gonna bounce. Yeah, I had a decent race. I'm just glad the 97 didn't wreck me this week. Congratulations to Jaden, and I want to thank everyone who showed up, everyone who's watching, and you guys for broadcasting. And hey, James, I see you filled in for Garrett tonight. Hope you guys had fun, and I will talk to you guys later or catch you next week.
All right. Well, thank you for at least joining us up here in the booth, Tony. It's always a pleasure getting the chance to talk to you. Great race here tonight, and hopefully we get to see you next week, and maybe get to see you up here on the podium again.
Yeah, should be a good track for me again next week. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Tony.
Yep.
All right. A little bit of a shorter interview here for Tony Hilbrands. Hopefully he's feeling all right here tonight. But Tony's going to come away with that third place finish here, and up next in the booth is going to be Mr. Benjamin Lacey, coming home with second place, the number 7 driver, doing an absolutely incredible job here tonight with pit strategies, as well as just staying consistent out here. And I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast that, Benjamin, I mean, you were kind of showing Howie Briss that you weren't the only consistent driver out here on track. And given that Milwaukee, one of the tougher tracks on as far as flat tracks are concerned, I mean, what was kind of the big things that were, on your do not do list, I guess you could say? And, do you think that you could have had better results here tonight if you could have dreamed for it, I guess it is?
Oh man, this track's tough. It's a technical track, so you got to be very, very diligent with your brakes and your throttle. I was just talking to some of the guys, Jaden. He and I both were pushing the trail brakes, basically the first half of the corner. So my philosophy was basically just, there's really not a whole lot of downtime off brake or throttle. Once one is off, I want to be back on the other. So I was kind of trying to do that, and then pit strategy was kind of going through. I thought tires were a little bit more important in the longer run. So I kind of wanted to actually stay out though and over pit them, because I knew I was going to be able to catch them back up and go with it. But Jaden and Tony got out pretty far. So then that last round of pit stops, I pit, I think maybe instead of 10 or 15 laps after, I think I pitted maybe like 7 or 8 or something like that, and was able to track down Tony. But Jaden was on a different level tonight, man, so congrats to him.
Yeah, Benjamin, I was going to ask you about that. Some of those earlier fuel runs, you had the longest run of the night, about 62 laps from pit to pit, and it seemed like you kind of got off that strategy on that. I believe that was the third pit stop. What made you change that mind instead of trying to go for the overcut? We were expecting to come in around lap 160, 170 if you stayed true to form, but it seemed like there at the end you got on the same cycle as the rest of the guys.
Yeah, originally my first thought process was, if we can go about 60, maybe stretch at 70, I was hoping maybe we could get it in 3 stops. I'm trying to do math while drive at the same time, and I didn't plan out to work that way. So once I kind of figured we'd have to make a third stop, I said, okay, I'll just kind of run hard, get up there, and then the third one we'll over pit just a little bit, so we got a little fresher tires and come back through and hopefully be able to catch them. And Jaden was just gone, another zip code, but was able to get Tony.
Well, Benjamin, coming away with 2 back-to-back podiums here. You came away with the second place finish last week at Myrtle Beach. Looking next week at Lucas Oil Raceway, what's kind of your expectations / goals going into IRP? A little bit of a shorter track than what we've seen here tonight, and it's probably going to have maybe a little bit more banking to work with than what we had here at Milwaukee. But you're on a very, very good path right now. You've got a lot of momentum that you've been carrying forward in the past couple weeks. What's kind of your thoughts for next week?
Stay consistent. It's another short track, so there we go with that. And hopefully I can break the second and third place and actually get a first place. But you get guys like Jaden and Nathan and Howie, Tony, all the guys in here. It's tough to do. So IRP it'll be a challenge. Probably be typical of what we've been seeing on our short tracks, but hopefully we can come away with a victory is always the goal, but one lap at a time.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Well, Benjamin, I want to thank you for your time and thank you for joining us up here in the booth and congratulate you again on your podium finish. Before we let you go and do your celebrating with your fellow drivers and anyone else that you have with you at the moment, is there anyone that you want to shout out and thank before you go? The floor is yours.
Filming the Wild, sponsor on the car. Appreciate them and all the work that they do. Check them out on youtube.com/filmingthewild. They got some exciting new things coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to be announcing. So keep tuned, and I appreciate what you guys do here in the booth. James, Mason, it's great. And I know we're missing someone else in here tonight, it looks like. So I hope they're okay. And Tony and all the admins here in the league, just appreciate them all.
Well, Benjamin, I'll let Gareth know that you were thinking about him, but I want to thank you again for joining us up here in the booth, and hopefully get to talk to you again next week.
10-4, appreciate y'all.
Absolutely, you have a great one. Alrighty, folks, Benjamin Lacey coming away second place here tonight. Last and certainly not going to be least here, Jaden Hopp coming away with yet another win, his 6th win of the season. Jaden, you are absolutely on a roll here, continuing your streak here, and doing quite well here tonight at Milwaukee. I mean, both myself and James were kind of trying to play pit strategist up here in the booth for a little while, trying to determine what some drivers were thinking here towards the end. Jaden, what was kind of your strategy with coming in lap 144 and just taking it all the way to the end? I mean, both myself and James, earlier in the race, Benjamin Lacey was the only driver to stay out 62 laps in the first stint, and then towards the end, it kind of flip-flopped. Everyone else decided to do the same thing. What was kind of the idea there? What was the strategy behind that?
I mean, at that point, I was just basing off what Tony did. I was using my lead as like the buffer, and once he came in, I'd follow him in.
Well, it looks like it worked well in your favor, and having, a bunch of different strategies being played out. Benjamin Lacey kind of playing a late race strategy, if you will. Tony Hilbrand's, like you mentioned, you were kind of just pacing along with him, and it seemed to work out for his favor as well. But it didn't all start out this way, and you definitely had a little bit of work ahead of you to work your way up into the front. Or actually, James actually has a question for you before I continue on, but yeah, Jaden, you had a phenomenal race. I'm going to pass you over to James here before I keep yabbering.
Jaden, he just forgot I was up here in the booth with me. No worries at all, man. But Jaden, I was going to ask the viewers at home, I was trying to kind of describe it, but how does the car change as far as handling over the run? Is it loose, tight, loose over those long runs here at Milwaukee, or how does the car handle as the tire starts to degrade?
It was pretty loose for like the first 2-3 laps, and then it started tightening up on the entry of the corner, and then it'd get loose coming off of it.
Awesome, thank you. I was trying to verbalize that to the fans, but you guys know how to get around these things a lot faster than I do, so I figured you'd be the pro to explain it to the viewers here tonight.
And on that note, Jaden, looking next week into not only IRP, but into the next few races that we have here. I mean, you're on a mission here. You're on a roll. Do you hope to continue the success that you've been having, coming away with wins, or are you just looking to secure top 3s, top 5s, or what's kind of your ultimate goal here in the next coming weeks?
Honestly, just getting the best finishes I can for the point standings. I'm not sure how IRP is going to go because I've never actually, done a race there, but Iowa should be a good race for me.
Absolutely. Well, I certainly look forward to it for your debut at IRP. I'm sure it's going to be an excellent one, and I'm sure it's going to be a spectacle for both everyone up here in the booth as well as everyone at home watching. But Jaden, before I let you go, before you head out here and do your celebrating with your fellow drivers and so on and so forth, is anyone watching the broadcast at home or in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go?
Just as always, you guys are putting on a good broadcast, Tony for putting on a good league, and everybody for showing up. And I'd like to thank my mom and grandma who are watching right now.
Absolutely. We love the support that we've seen from the Hop family, and we love to see you up here in the booth and doing as well as you have been, Jaden. And hopefully get to see you back up here next week and maybe talking in similar circumstances. But for now, Jaden, good luck to you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And on that note, folks, that is going to conclude our post-race interviews for the day. James, it's been a wild night here at Milwaukee. It's been a long race here for these drivers, but I would say for 200 laps here at Milwaukee, a green flag race being done here for these drivers, I don't think they could have asked for anything better. I mean, I don't necessarily know what I was expecting coming into it, but I'm definitely more than certain that it is. This is far from whatever it was that I was expecting when I first started the broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely rare you ever see a race in Milwaukee go green start to finish, but great racing, great friends, and even better spectators here at VRL. So couldn't ask for a better Monday night with good friends.
Absolutely. And on that note, folks, I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in here tonight. Thank you to all of our fans, all of our regulars, everyone who tunes into our broadcast and tunes in. We wouldn't be able to do this without you folks, or at least we would just be sitting here talking to ourselves, and that doesn't make it nearly as fun. So thank you all for tuning in, interacting with us, and being a part of the shows week in and week out. It definitely makes things feel a lot more organic, and makes it all come together. It's great. But on that note, folks, thank you all for tuning in and watching. If you like what you saw, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad nearly 7 nights a week. Head on over to teamgoonsquad.com as well. Pick up some merchandise if you haven't already. If you pick up some VRL merchandise, 50% of the profits go right back to VRL to help them continue what they're doing. And if you want to be an active supporter of Team Goon Squad, you can head on over to patreon.com/Team Goon Squad. Become a monthly subscriber and have your name displayed at the end of each broadcast here, and it is also a great way to support us and keep supporting the racing that we do here with Team Goon Squad. Thank you all for watching. It has been a long night of racing, but a long night of great racing, and I look forward to seeing you all next week as we head to IRP for what will be the Hoosier 200. Thank you all for watching. See you all next time.